1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know if I've got this microphone set right. I'll have to try now. I'll just have a drink. 1 second. Ooh, that's nice. Hello, welcome to the first in the Dan's Monster Pod chats. I don't really know what direction these are going to go to, but I do quite a lot of rambling. So I thought I would share some of my rambling nonsense with you guys here on Patreon, exclusively before anybody else. Well, that sounds like a good thing worthwhile paying for. If it's not, tell me and I'll just stop because I can't stand the sound of my own voice either. So there you go. Anyway, I thought I would start with a little bit of a history, I suppose, of why The Evil Dead is my favourite horror film of all time. Some people will disagree whether it's any good or not. I'm sure most of you guys who follow me on Instagram and know me will probably like The Evil Dead. I like everything to do with The Evil Dead. I like all the movies, I like the TV series, and I like all the remakes as well. I think they're cool. Love them to bits. So, I thought I'll give you a quick chat about it. Now, some of you may have read my blog post back when I have had one. And this is a sort of rebuild, is that a word, on that blog post, but I've decided I'm just going to rattle it off and see how it sounds and add a few more bits as I come along whilst looking at the notes. I hope that's okay. Shall we start? Oh, it's like a story time. Story time. Okay, so 1983. 4 p.m. on a Friday. School's fucked off because nobody likes it. We get in the car with my dad and we drive to the local video store, Frank's video store. It's the only one within the 3 or 4 villages where I lived. Open the door and it's full of posters for all sorts of stuff. You know, these amazing paintings for films that look nothing at all like the painting whatsoever. But boy, we were just like, oh, the box cover, everything about them. And then there's this massive poster. Palace Pictures proudly presents the ultimate experience in grueling terror. And I am transfixed. It's The Evil Dead. The most ferocious original horror film of the year, said Stephen King. Apparently a international best-selling author. I couldn't wait to grab hold of it. I mean, the garish colours, everything about it, the weird white-eyed zombie photos on the back. I mean, wow. I mean, the actual video cover was a bit crap. It was a photo, but the poster was amazing. Now, I'd always loved horror movies, and we used to watch them, which was our only access to them, was on a Friday night, and on the BBC, they used to have on BBC Two, the horror movie double bill. And me and my brother would sit in our bedroom with the portable plugged in, watching old Hammer movies, old Amicus movies, old black and white horror movies. One of them, of course, being Curse of the Demon. The M.R. James, brilliant, you know, but Quatermass movies. And that's what they had. Occasionally they had like American ones, so they'd have like the Crazies. I mean, you wouldn't see that on TV, well, for years later. But mainly, like I say, it's the Hammer movies and stuff like that. My brother would pick up copies of House of Hammer, which was out at the moment, which they had like all the photos about all the Hammer movies we loved. They had some modern horror movies, and they also had like comics retelling of the Hammer movies, which were incredible. And then, of course, you used to pick up 2000 AD and the random US comics that we could get hold of. But there was also a news agent in our local shopping centre that occasionally had copies of Fangoria, which was just like an absolute mind bomb. You know, I mean, the films that were in there we would never see until probably 20 years later. It was just incredible. And they had all these monster masks, and they had all these people creating all this makeup, and And of course in it was Evil Dead as well. Just unbelievable. When the VHS shops opened in the UK, the dream to be able to see some of these movies that were in these magazines, well, it was just there. They were all there. We'd go to Frank's video store with my mum and dad and pursue all the choices that they had, especially the horror, the sci-fi, and the sort of fantasy stuff with his incredible artwork on the front. Paintings by Schiotti, the Medusa label usually had a lot of the post-apocalyptic ones and the horror ones, and just incredible, and some of the paintings were so good, they just like, you had to have them. Invariably, probably about 80% of the films were absolute bollocks, but that didn't matter. I mean, these were like pre-photoshopped, so paintings were a thing, and they just like, oh man, I'm getting excited just thinking about it. Not like that. Anyway, those days in the video shop industry, it was a bit of a wild west. The Video Recording Act in the UK had not reared its head yet, so film distributors were getting hold of anything they could do and slapping a cracking cover on them and just throwing them out there, which is right in which of like Cannibal Apocalypse, Cannibal Holocaust, and Cannibal Ferox, and various other things that all basically hit the video nasty list in the end. But we watched pretty much everything from The Exterminator to all the zombie flesh eater movies, and beyond, obviously. Cannibal movies, vigilante movies, super violent, Exterminator, ooh, blimey, and loads of things I can't even remember now. Quite a lot of horror movies with lots of gore, lots of boobs in them. I'd be about 13 or 14. Wow. My mum and dad were pretty laid back about it, and things have come out all right, I think. Even The Evil Dead was eventually banned under the Video Recordings Act. Christ knows why. They obviously never watched it, but we managed to see it before the ban came in and the police started raiding the video shops and taking everything off the shelves. I always remember the poster absolutely blew me away, and I managed to get a copy of it, although it is starting to fade now and I need a new one. And I think it's one of the early ones that's designed by Graham Humphreys, obviously, very famous now. And he did quite a few, because I think he even did one, Monkey Shines, I think he did, the George Romero one, and several others anyway, certainly for Palace Pictures, and even some of the Medusa films as well. And me and my brother had always been obsessed about like film poster art and like fantasy art, sci-fi art, and we'd always get big books, big book of sci-fi art, big book of horror art, big book of fantasy art, Christmas stuff and things like that. Anyway, back to The Evil Dead. I'm not going to go into the plot. We all know what the plot is. I'm sure you do. So there's no point me banging on about that. And I think it sticks in my head so much, because there are plenty of films that I watched then that I still love now, like The Thing, Alien, The Warning, Chud, Star Wars. There's tons of films that have made impressions on me, but I think The Evil Dead did it for me the most is because it looked like it had been made in somebody's back garden. Everything I looked at in all the magazines, be it Starlog, be it Starburst, be it Fangoria, they were expensive movies with expensive special effects. You just couldn't figure out how they'd done it. And then I'm watching The Evil Dead with these like crusty looking zombies with these weird colours, and then at the end, spoilers, when the creatures die, it's plasticine, it's stop motion, and it's gory. Well, I made stuff out of plasticine for years. Stop motion, I love stop motion stuff, Ray Harryhausen, who doesn't? But then adding those two things together and throwing buckets of gore in it as well, I was just like, wow, I'm sat in my bedroom making models out of modelling clay and plasticine, and these guys are animating it and splattering it full of gore as well. Amazing. I must have watched it the weekend we got it about 4 or 5 times, and what a roller coaster ride. I mean, it gives me shivers just thinking about it now. And I drew those deadites. I even tried to make them in my bedroom, and then I started to figure out, well, I wonder how I can make the makeup, and I became massively obsessed with special makeup effects after that, and I was mixing plasticine, tissue paper, PVA glue. I mean, you couldn't get latex anywhere, you know. I'm like in the masks and the stuff that was in the back of the Fangoria magazines. I'd use anything I could get my hand on. Wallpaper paste, you know, don't get that on your skin, certainly not back then. I even made a deadite head to take into my school to talk about hobbies, and it was like in the last few weeks of school, and I think it was the only time I was ever popular. I was a strange kid. Bringing in a 7 made you even stranger, but it coughed out blood. I had a tube from my dad's homebrew kit, and anyway, it coughed blood out over the front audience. But you know, it made me popular for a week, so. And after that, all I wanted to do was work in the special effects makeup industry. But unfortunately, in the UK, it wasn't a thing, or you had to live in London. There was nothing in the north of England. That's a shame, but that's how it goes. So I just carried on drawing them, I suppose. Anyway, so Evil Dead just got better and better for me. The first one, when I managed to get hold of it myself, I just keep watching with. I mean, I've got the one which is on DVD, which is the Book of the Dead cover. I went to go and see Evil Dead 2 at the cinema. Couldn't believe it. I went to go and see Army of Darkness at the cinema. Amazing. I mean, that not only had stop motion, gore, but Jason the Argonaut skeletons in it as well. I mean, you're just ticking every box there. Could I liked it a bit gorier? Yeah. Did it have lots of monsters and stuff in? Yeah. I'm very happy with that. And so I continue to watch everything about it. I've got collectible figures around in my studio here. I've created my own artwork about it. I've the TV series I loved. I like all the remakes, or whatever you want to call it. I think they're brilliant. It's their own sort of skit on it, and I think that's fantastic. And so, still to this day, Evil Dead just has such a fond place in my very gory-filled heart. It's just amazing. I can't get enough of it. And those little plasticine models exploding at the end are just one of the greatest things I think I've ever seen. And I don't care how good special effects are these days. Nothing comes better than being a 14-year-old lad watching plasticine models exploding gore and guts everywhere and covering Bruce Campbell in the chunky, nasty, horrible, gory bits. So there. That's why I like The Evil Dead. Made me want to make monsters, create monsters, draw monsters, become dance monsters, I suppose. And there's nothing better than a Deadite. I wish I got the chance to meet some of the guys at some point. I always keep missing. I don't get out very often. I can't be bothered, to be honest with you. But what I would say is, there's a book by a guy called Andrew David Barker called Dead Leaves, and it's not a horror book, but it's a story of a lad trying to get hold of a banned copy of Evil Dead through his own experience. I can really recommend it. That's Andrew David Barker, Dead Leaves. Try and get a copy if you can do. It's brilliant, absolutely fantastic. Anyway, guys, thanks very much. I'm going to have another drink. My throat's gone. I don't know how many of these are going to do. Practice. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for having a listen. I hope you like this. Let me know if you did or you didn't. If you think it's a bag of shite, just tell me. I'll stop doing them. If you want to hear more of these stupid things, I'll carry on. Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining Patreon. It's really appreciated. Keep me in pens and paper. You're a bunch of stars. Bye!